Oh, here I am live. Okay, cool. Hello, everybody out there. I hope you enjoy this video. This is just going to be me reading a book. Cameras. Hope I look better than what I see on the screen here, but oh well. First time doing this, so I'm reading This is my first book doing this, so I hope everybody bears with me. I may stumble, but we shall persevere. So this is the first book I'm going to do. I'm going to read the whole book, and it is the Dichotomy of. I'm Richard Herschel Griffin, by the way. Nice to see everybody, I guess. This is the Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. There are some pictures in this book, so I will be showing those to the screen and reading the comment below it. So this is page, I guess it's the first page right after the title page. So here's what that looks like. Hope you can see that. So that's just a picture of the troops there. I guess that's Jocko's troop. And here's what it says. Task Unit Bruiser. SEALs. Task Unit Bruisers SEALs. Explosive ordnance disposal bomb technicians and Iraqi soldiers conduct a clearance operation in the Malab district of Eastern Ramadi alongside U.S. soldiers of Task Force Red Kurahi, the legendary Band of Brothers of the 1st Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 1st of the 506th, 101st Airborne Division, a 1st of the 506th Company Commander, Gunfighter 6, an outstanding warrior and professional soldier, is in the foreground at right. Let me turn my screen up a little bit. It's a little hard to see. So that's that picture. And I'll skip all the... There's another picture of Ramadi. I'll skip it. And we'll go right into the preface. War is a nightmare. It is awful, indifferent, devastating, and evil. War's hell. But war is also an incredible teacher, a brutal instructor. We learned lessons in war written in blood about sorrow, loss, and pain. We also learned about the fragility of human life and the power of the human spirit. Of course, we learned about strategy and tactics. We learned how to most effectively take the fight to our enemies. We learned how to analyze targets, gather and exploit information, find our enemies' weaknesses, and capitalize on them. We applied these lessons and made the enemy pay for their transgressions. But of everything we learned, nothing is as universal and transferable as how we came to truly understand the power of leadership. We saw how successful leaders could create victory where victory seemed impossible. We also witnessed how poor leadership could bring defeat upon teams that seemed invincible. We discovered firsthand that the principles of leadership are simple but not easy. There are strategies, techniques, and skills that take time and practice to utilize effectively. The foremost requirement for potent leadership is humility, so that leaders can fully understand and appreciate their own shortfalls. We learned much on the battlefield, and we have tried to pass those lessons on, but we are still humbled every day by our mistakes and all that we continue to learn. This book builds upon our first book, Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. It is the follow-on book that so many readers of Extreme Ownership asked us to write. We have laid out the concepts in We have laid out the concepts in the dichotomy of leadership with clear descriptions and context so that it can be read and understood independently of the first book. For further explanation of the overviews given in the following pages, readers may want the deeper understanding and background provided in Extreme Ownership. But while it may be helpful to understand the first book for greater enlightenment, it is not essential. In both books, we reference our experiences in the military, where we both served as SEAL officers. The bulk of our lessons learned draw from the Battle of Ramadi in 2006, where we served as leaders of SEAL Team 3, Task Unit Bruiser. During that battle, the SEALs from Task Unit Bruiser fought with an incredible bravery and tenacity. They delivered huge impact on the battlefield, but Task Unit Bruiser also suffered severe casualties. Those sacrifices will never be forgotten. Upon our departure from active duty in the U.S. Navy, we launched a company, Echelon Front, to share the lessons we learned with leaders in every capacity. In 2015, we published Extreme Ownership. Through that book, leaders all over the world embraced its fundamental principles, the mindset of extreme ownership and the 4 laws of combat: cover and move, simple, prioritize and execute, and decentralized command. More than 1 million readers have taken those tenets and implemented them in their professional and personal lives with extraordinary results. But employing these principles to the fullest proves challenging. The nuances, if neglected or misunderstood, create obstacles difficult to overcome. We wrote this book to provide the granular insight and understanding that often render the difference between success and failure. This book will enable you to better process, analyze, and apply these leadership principles to your battlefield, in whatever arena that might be, whether leading in combat, business, or life. The format of the dichotomy of leadership mirrors that of Extreme Ownership. There are 3 parts to the book. Excuse me. 4 chapters in each part and 3 sections in each chapter. The first section of each chapter describes an experience from combat or SEAL training. The second section discusses the relevant principle, and the third provides direct application of the concept to the business world. The dichotomy of leadership is not a memoir or a history of the Iraq War. As we said in Extreme Ownership, this book is about leadership. It was written for leaders of teams, large and small, for men and women, for any person who aspires to better themselves. Though it contains exciting accounts of SEAL combat operations, this book is a collection of lessons learned from our experiences to help other leaders achieve victory. If it serves as a useful guide to leaders who aspire to build, train, and lead high-performance winning teams, then it has accomplished its purpose. The combat and training experiences we describe are all true stories, but they are meant for historic reference. The dialogues we have written are intended to impart the message and meaning of conversations. They are imperfect and subject to the passage of time and the shortfalls of memory. We have also concealed specific tactics, techniques, and procedures and ensured that no classified information about when and where specific operations took place and who participated in them is revealed. In accordance with the U.S. Department of Defense requirements, the manuscript was submitted and approved through the Pentagon security review process. We do not use the names of our SEAL teammates unless they are the names of our fallen or they are the SEALs already in the public eye. Our brothers still on active duty in the SEAL teams are silent professionals who seek no recognition, and we treat our responsibility to protect them with the utmost seriousness. We have taken the same precautions to protect the incredible soldiers and Marines we served with in the Battle of Ramadi and elsewhere. Their names fill our memories with the extraordinary leadership, sacrifice, and heroism they demonstrated. But to ensure their privacy and security, we do not use their names in this book unless they are already known to the public. Similarly, we have taken every measure to protect the confidentiality for the clients of our leadership consulting company, Echelon Front. We have refrained from using company names, changed the names and titles of individuals and in some cases abstained from using industry-specific information or altered it. As in extreme ownership, while the stories we tell from the business world are based directly on real experiences, in some cases, we have combined situations, condensed timelines, and modified details to protect the confidentiality or more clearly emphasize the underlying principles we are trying to illustrate. It has been gratifying to witness the worldwide reach and impact of extreme ownership, particularly in the success that so many readers have achieved through its guiding principles. But there are those who misunderstood the title of that book and its powerful foundational principle, the mindset and attitude of extreme ownership. In most cases, rather than extremes, leadership requires balance. Leaders must find the equilibrium between opposing forces that pull in opposite directions, being aggressive but cautious, disciplined but not rigid, a leader but also a follower. It also applies to almost every aspect of leadership. Achieving the proper balance in each of the many dichotomies is the most difficult aspect of leadership. We wrote the Dichotomy of Leadership to help leaders understand this challenge and find the balance needed to most effectively lead and win. No matter the arena, the balance must be achieved for optimal performance. If a leader imposes too much authority, the team becomes reluctant to execute. Not enough, and the team has no direction. If leaders are too aggressive, they put the team and the mission at risk. Yet if they wait too long to take action, results can be equally catastrophic. If a leader trains his or her people too hard, they may burn out. Yet without challenging and realistic training, the team remains unprepared for real-world situations they may face. The dichotomies go on, each one requiring balance. Since the release of extreme ownership, as we worked with thousands of leaders from hundreds of companies and organizations, the majority of the questions we received were around this concept, this struggle, achieving balance, the dichotomy of leadership. We wrote this book to specifically address those questions. Just as we described in the preface of Extreme Ownership, we don't have all the answers. No one does. But we learned extremely humbling and valuable lessons as battlefield leaders from both our failures and our successes. Often our mistakes and failures provided the most valuable lessons that helped us learn and grow. We continue to learn and grow to this day. As the dichotomy of leadership builds upon the concepts in extreme ownership, the words from the preface of our previous work are applicable. We wrote this book to capture those leadership principles for future generations so that they may not be forgotten, so that as new wars begin and end, such crucial lessons will not have to be relearned, rewritten in more blood. We wrote this so that the leadership lessons can continue to impact teams beyond the battlefield in all leadership situations. In any company, team, or organization in which a group of people strives to achieve a goal and accomplish a mission. We wrote this book for leaders everywhere to utilize the principles we learned to lead and win. All right, let me dim my screen and show you this picture. This is a picture of a tank. Pretty cool picture, actually. You see that? That is a tank. U.S. Army M2 Bradley fighting vehicles and M1A2 Abrams tanks from Team Bulldog Bravo Company, Task Force Bandit, 1st Battalion, 37th Armored Regiment of the 1st Brigade, 1st Armored Division, led by Captain Main Gun Mike Bajama. How would you like to have a nickname like that? Main Gun Mike. Led by Captain Main Gun Mike Bajama, provide crucial fire support to their dismounted U.S. and Iraqi infantry troops and Charlie platoon SEALs on a combat operation in South Central Ramadi. Team Bulldog and Task Force Bandit were outstanding, aggressive, and professional soldiers whose courageous response saved Task Unit Bruiser SEALs on scores of combat operations. Introduction. Finding the Balance. Leif Babin. J Block, South Central Ramadi, Iraq, 2006. Stand by to get some. Someone said over the inter-squad radio. In the calm demeanor you might expect of a flight attendant telling airline passengers to stow their tray tables for landing. The street in front of us had emptied of people. Like magic, the local citizens had all suddenly disappeared, and we knew what that meant. Enemy attack was imminent. The hair on the back of my neck stood at rigid attention. After many a vicious gunfight in Ramadi, stand by to get some was a running joke that eased the tension right when we knew trouble was coming. The more nonchalantly it could be said under the direst of circumstances, the funnier it was. It was broad daylight as our patrol of SEALs and Iraqi soldiers made its way on foot down the narrow city street, bordered by high concrete walls on either side. Suddenly, the world exploded. Dozens of bullets snapped through the air, each with a sharp supersonic crack, and smashed into the concrete wall, next to me with a thunderous impact. Shards of concrete flew everywhere. The heavy volleys of incoming fire sounded like multiple jackhammers simultaneously chewing up the street and the walls all around us. We had walked right into an enemy buzzsaw. Insurgent fighters hit us from multiple directions with belt-fed machine guns. I couldn't see them or where they were shooting from, but the number of enemy bullets flying through the air around us was crazy. There was no place to hide. With high walls on both sides, the narrow south central Ramadi street provided no cover. The only thing between us and the enemy machine guns was a single parked car on the side of the road some distance up the block, and the typical trash strewn about. The patrol was in dual column formation, each column split on opposite sides of the street, hunkered close to the walls. There was nothing to get behind that could protect us from the bullets, but we did have something on our side: devastating firepower. We fully expected a firefight on every patrol and into this enemy-held neighborhood, and we rolled in heavy. Each squad of 8 SEALs packed at least 4 belt-fed machine guns to suppress an enemy attack we had encountered. When we came under fire, our immediate response with violent and overwhelming gunfire provided the only answer: cover and move. Having learned through the humbling experience of months of urban combat, Task Unit Bruiser had had plenty of practice in this fundamental gunfighting principle. Within nanoseconds, the SEALs with the big machine guns up front unleashed the most ruthless and lethal barrage of fire you could imagine. Despite the intensity and violence of the close urban combat, I couldn't help but smile. Damn, I love these guys. The big, tough frogmen who carried the heavy MK-48 and MK-46 machine guns, pronounced Mark 48 and Mark 46, and the weight of hundreds of rounds of ammunition in addition to their body armor, helmet, radio, water, and everything else they had to carry, all in the blistering heat of the Iraqi summer sun. Those SEAL machine gunners kept us alive. Our snipers killed a lot of bad guys and received many well-deserved accolades for it, but every time we were attacked, it was the SEAL machine gunners who suppressed the threat of enemy fire. Standing or kneeling, they fired their machine guns from the shoulder with incredible accuracy. That machine gun fire eliminated the insurgent fighters shooting at us or forced them to take cover, meaning they couldn't accurately engage us, which enabled us to maneuver, flank, or simply get off the street and out of harm's way. Despite the dozens of bullets hitting the street and the walls near us, no one was hit. That was the beauty of cover and move. As the commander of Charlie Platoon and the senior man on the ground, I was itching to make a call, pass a verbal command to peel back, and choose a nearby building for a strong point, where we could find protection behind concrete walls, set security, and take the high ground on the rooftop. From there, we could locate our attackers, send out a squad to flank them, or call in the tanks to blast them to oblivion. I had dreamed of being a combat leader since I was a kid. I had wanted to be a SEAL since at least middle school. when I learned about the legendary Naval Special Operations Unit. Leading intense combat operations in a place like Ramadi was the ultimate fulfillment of that dream. Every bone in my body wanted to step up and take charge, bark a verbal command that could be heard over the sound of intense gunfire, but I wasn't in charge. The leader of this particular combat operation was Charlie Platoon's most junior assistant platoon commander, or assistant officer in charge, AOIC. The least experienced officer in the platoon. It was his operation, and it was his call. I would certainly step in and make a call if he or others needed me to when the situation called for it, but he was a great officer and paired with Tony Ifrati, our outstanding and highly experienced platoon chief. I had total faith in my AOIC, and he proved himself time and again. Rapidly, the AOIC pointed out a larger building in which to strong point. As the SEALs up front laid down suppressive gunfire, other SEALs moved to the entrance gate, the pathway off the street, and entered the compound. From my position toward the middle of the patrol, I observed at least one enemy firing position a few blocks in front of us, and I lobbed several 40 mm grenades from the M203 grenade launcher mounted below my M4 rifle. I sent the high explosive golden eggs up over the heads of our patrol and down into the enemy position, where they exploded with a fiery blast. It was a small contribution, but an effective way to keep the bad guys' heads down, complementing our machine gun fire. I then moved up the entrance gate of the compound and took position in the street just outside, directing guys inside the gate as they ran to catch up. Mark Lee, with his big MK-48 machine gun, stood in the street just ahead of me, laying down belt after belt of devastating fire. Mark was a badass. He had us covered. Enemy rounds were still cracking by us and flying down the street, but with Mark laying the hammer down, the enemy fire was less accurate. I swiveled to face the rear of the patrol. One of the last SEALs still on the street was running hard in my direction. "Let's go," I yelled at him, waving him over with a hand motion toward the gate. Suddenly, only feet from me and the safety of the concrete walls, the SEAL fell violently forward and landed hard, face down in the street. I rushed over to him in horror. Man down, I thought. He must have taken a round to the chest or head. I darted over, expecting to find him a bloody mess. I was surprised to see him lying there, smiling up at me. "Are you all right?" I yelled over the sound of the gunfire. Bullets were still whizzing past us, kicking up dirt just a few feet away and ricocheting off the nearby walls. "I'm good," he replied. I tripped. I smiled back in relief, thankful that he wasn't grave wounded or dead. "Bro," I yelled over the noise of the firefight. "I thought you got your head shot off." We both chuckled. Quickly, I grabbed his hand and helped him to his feet. We sprinted the rest of the way back to the gate. As the SEAL ducked into the gate, I ran forward and slapped Mark on the back. "Last man," I yelled, letting him know we had everyone accounted for. I covered for Mark as he pulled back, pointed his big gun barrel smoking to the sky, and we ducked inside the gate together. Finally, everybody was off the street, out of the enemy line of fire, and inside the compound behind the cover of concrete walls. Thanks to Mark and our other machine gunners, supported by SEAL shooters and their M4 rifles, despite the vicious enemy attack with substantial firepower, none of us had been hit. I made my way to the rooftop where SEAL shooters had taken up firing positions. As the enemy fighters moved from building to building and continued their attack, we engaged them. The AOIC was there on the roof with our Charlie platoon radioman, assessing the situation. "What do you want to do?" I asked him. "Let's call in the tanks for fire support," he said calmly. The AOIC was cool under fire, a great quality that every leader should work toward. "Roger that," I said. It was exactly the right call. We had the high ground on the rooftop. We had good security behind the concrete walls. The SEAL radioman contacted the U.S. Army Company Team Bulldog, Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 37th Armored Regiment of the 1st Brigade, 1st Armored Division, and got the M1A2 Abrams tanks rolling our way with their massive firepower. We loved those soldiers under the command of Captain Main Gun Mike Bajama. Despite the deadly threat of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, that destroyed a number of tanks in this south central Ramadi neighborhood, every single time we called for help, Main Gun Mike personally loaded up in his tank and fearlessly came to our aid, accompanied by another Bulldog tank. We could take great risk and patrol deep into dangerous enemy territory only because we knew that when we got into trouble, Team Bulldog had us covered. Mike and his soldiers were outstanding, aggressive warriors. They would do everything in their power to get to us, no matter how dangerous or difficult. And when they arrived in their tanks, they brought the thunder. It took several minutes for the tank crews to mount up and drive out to our location. We continued to take enemy fire from several directions. One SEAL operator peeked his head above the roof wall to determine where the bad guys were. As he did, his head snapped back and violently fell backward. He sat up unharmed, wondering what the hell had just happened. When the SEAL took off his helmet to examine it, he found a deep gash where the enemy bullet had ricocheted off the night vision mount on the front of his helmet, just an inch or two lower, and that round would have taken off his head. "What happened?" a SEAL next to him asked. "I got shot," he said with a smile, pointing to his helmet. "It was a close call, but thankfully one we could laugh about." As we waited on the rooftop, I switched my radio over to monitor Bulldog Company's communication. I heard Main Gun Mike ask if we could mark the buildings from where the enemy fires were shooting at us. "Do you have any red smoke grenades?" the radioman asked. I didn't have any. "We got tracers," I suggested. The SEAL radioman had a full magazine of tracer rounds, which emitted a visible orange glow along the bullet path as they zipped through the air. Mark Lee also had tracers every fifth round in his ammunition belt. We relayed to Main Gun Mike and his tankers the plan. As the heavy Abrams tanks approached, tank tracks clattering on the concrete city street, I heard the word over the radio to mark the target and relayed the order via verbal command. "Mark the target," I yelled. Mark and the SEAL radioman lit up the enemy position with tracer fire. "Stand by to get some," I thought, as Mike's Abrams tank rotated its huge turret and trained the mighty 120 mm cannon at the building from where we had been receiving fire. The tank unleashed its thunderous fury into the building and ended the enemy attack. The insurgent firefighters, who hadn't been obliterated, beat a hasty retreat. We received no more fire from the enemy that day, thanks to Mike and his Team Bulldog soldiers. Once again, the tanks had been our deliverance. The combined team of SEALs and U.S. Army soldiers had given the insurgents more than they could handle, and my AOIC had proven once again that he was a solid leader, competent and cool-headed, even under the stress of combat. But just as my assistant platoon commander had to be ready to lead, in this situation, I had to be ready to follow. The goal of all leaders should be to work themselves out of a job. You never quite get there, but by putting junior leaders and frontline troops in charge, our SEAL platoon and task unit were far more effective. It created a culture of leaders at every level of the team. Trying to navigate between leadership and followership is an example of the dichotomy of leadership, the balance that every leader must find between the two opposing forces in leadership, ready to lead, but also knowing when to follow. Taking extreme ownership of everything that impacts the mission, but also empowering others to lead with decentralized command. The recognition of the many dichotomies and the ability to balance these opposing forces provide a powerful tool that enables leaders at every level to lead and win.